She's silent because she has a lot of different issues when she
Alrighty. Like I said, wasn't going to be that long. So now coming up is going to be Nerd Squared and the complex found footage run. Please take it away.
Yep, so hey, I'm Nerd. I run a bunch of different things, and of course, horror and awful games, both of them are among those. Tonight I'll be playing a little game called The Complex. It's based off of this thing called The Backrooms, which is basically this online horror fandom kind of thing, like the SCP Foundation and even the Slender Man back in the day. There's been a few video games and online web series that have been made based off of it, and this game is probably the best representation of that, at least on the video game side, because it's made on the Unreal Engine 5, which has a lot of really good graphics and things like that. And it's a nice chill run, so as it is a walking simulator, so we'll get to see what that's about in a second. Now, since it is Unreal Engine 5, though, it doesn't run very well. There might be a bit of lag, but don't think we have to worry about that too much. So we got a bit of an intro cutscene here. Our character's in the year 1990. As is tradition with the Backrooms, this character is going to fall in, or no-clip in. And normally we would start time, or previously we would start time when we press begin there to start the game on the main menu, but recently with this game, which there is a bit of a community for this, we decided to actually start time as soon as we start moving here because uh, at the beginning of every run there's an intro cutscene that you can't skip, so having the timer play during that doesn't really make a lot of sense. Alright, so we're gonna start the run here in just a second. As I said, it starts when we start moving, so timer starts in 3, 2, 1. Let's explore the back rooms. Alright. So this game is very straightforward as a run. As I kind of mentioned before, it's a bit of a walking or running simulator. So there's not too much you can really do to optimize it, although there are a few techniques. The main thing is just turning around corners and finding optimal routes through these levels, because as this game has levels that are mainly like big liminal spaces. If you're familiar with liminal spaces, you might know what that is. They're very confusing to navigate, especially on your first playthrough. But through time spent running this game, you've figured out pretty clean paths to get through them quickly. There's also a few movement optimizations. So this game does have a stamina system. As you can see, I'm sprinting right here. And after about 40 seconds total of running in this patch, you run out and you are forced to walk for a little bit. But if you immediately after losing your sprint, you start pressing sprint again, you get to start sprinting again, which is helpful for saving a little bit of time and movements here and there. And at the end of every level, there's an elevator we have to take to go to the next level. And you're supposed to enter this elevator and wait for it to go up, but if we just edge ourselves in the entrance of the elevator here, we can hit the trigger that closes the elevator doors from outside the elevator. So while the elevator doors are closing, we can just explore the rest of these levels to our heart's content until the level loads. A theoretical glitch I've been thinking of for this game would be to advance a little bit further in the level before the next level loads by clipping out the elevator there, but unfortunately it doesn't really work. So we're in the second level of the game. If you're familiar with Backrooms, as I was telling you about with it being a big fandom, that first level we just went through, it's Virtue's level 0. That's like the base level that everyone no-clips into when they first go in the back rooms, and this here is an area named the pool rooms. And I did a little skip at the start there. It's very minor, but it does save a decent chunk of time. It saves around half a minute. You're supposed to walk around the entire length of that room. Basically, you have to take a big turn to the right to get to where I just went to, but that railing, or guardrail on that walkway, is just low enough to where you can crouch under it. so you can sneak into the water and not have to walk all that way around the walkway. I also started sprinting as I went off the railing, which is a bit of a tight timing, but it's not too difficult to get used to. You're normally not supposed to be able to sprint in water, but by holding sprint as I go off that ledge, I can run through the water. Saves a decent chunk of time there. Alright, so now we're in the next level, which I believe is the hotel. Yep, it's the hotel. So as I was saying with finding clean paths through these levels, which are normally pretty expansive in a casual playthrough, this one's extremely short because the elevator to leave is just right here. And I'm going to do that same trick I did before, where I edge myself into the elevator and hit the trigger. And I'm doing this because there's going to be a effect here where these chairs that you see here, they're going to shift around in front of this elevator. And you get to see that from the outside perspective here. Normally you're locked in the elevator while this is happening. Yep, you can see chairs just teleported there. Again, if you're familiar with the back rooms, there's supposed to be an encounter with the bacteria monster, or like an entity here. It's actually not a very combative entity, because there's no actual chase sequences in the game. There's just like little bits where he spooks you. And that right there was just him tapping on the elevator. So it's pretty funny seeing that scene from an outside perspective. So we're back in level 0, the good old yellow wallpaper and moist carpets. If you're familiar with the original Backrooms copy pasta. But similarly to how we figured out a clean path to get to the end, we're going to do the same here. We just take a cut through this room, and then there's an elevator in this room just in front of me, down here. And you can see that my sprint stopped there, but I just quickly re-tap sprint and I'm able to start running again. It used to be a lot more complex, pun not intended, in the old patch of this game to do that sprint tech, but since in this current patch that I'm running on made the stamina last a lot longer, it's a lot nicer here. That's something else I haven't mentioned, by the way. I'm running this on the current patch of the game. When this game originally released, it had an older patch, which was a lot longer. You'd have to do 8 levels of the back rooms instead of the 6 I'll be doing here. And the stamina also lasted a lot longer. The stamina, as opposed to the 40 seconds in this, approximately, lasts about 20 seconds there. And when you pre-press sprint to start running again, it would immediately run out. So you'd have to constantly tap and then repress sprint to keep running. And it's super awkward to do, but it's a lot nicer here, thankfully. Also, quick aside, you might recognize that area if you've watched Kane Pixels' Backroom series on YouTube. Pretty talented VFX person there. Highly recommend watching his stuff. We're on the final level already, because this game is pretty short. There's these 3 cabins here in this big, expansive, snowy area. And this blue cabin in the middle has an elevator that we want to go to. So we'll just make our way in there. And there we go. So that's the last level. We just have to wait for this elevator to go down. There's going to be a sequence after this brief load where the elevator will fall down to, I guess, the next level. And then our camera is going to no-clip out. And when that happens, when the elevator starts falling, that'll be time. I'll let you know when it is. There we go. Time. It's on that second black flash, which is kind of tricky to time, but that looks about right, anyway. So our camera no-clipped out of the back rooms. Fortunately, we didn't. The fate of our main character is kind of unknown, but our tape here in this camera... We'll wait for this little dramatic shot. gets discovered by this company named Magwave, which in the future sequel to this game, which is currently in development, we're going to see how they entered the backrooms and what happens there.
Very interesting. Thank you so much. That was a great run.
Yeah, the complex and like the backrooms related stuff in general is just so cool. It like hits that, I don't know what the right word is. It hits that like itch that of what I was talking about before with Slenderman and SCP, just all the lore attached to it. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it's sort of, yeah, you had mentioned like the SCP, where it's just that, I guess, group sort of like, I can't think of the exact word, but where like a bunch of people are like collaboratively building a story. So
yeah, speaking of, he was just mentioned there in that last title card. I want to heavily shout, or mainly shout out, Kane Pixels, as you saw there in that, and I even mentioned him during the run. He's his like Backrooms web series, which is on his YouTube channel. Highly recommend you watch it. It was a big inspiration for a lot of the levels, literally levels, in this game, and for a lot of other people. Like, there's been a lot of offshoots of his series, and it's been really interesting to see. So huge shouts to Kane for probably single-handedly bringing the Backrooms to life as of 2022, and hopefully going into 2023.
nice. Is the speedrun community around this game pretty big, or is it still pretty small?
It's actually pretty small, because the game itself is pretty small. But
I mean, that's fair.
I feel like, anyway, we're pretty tightly knit. I mean, we've already gone through a timing change, for one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because originally we would start time here when we press begin.
Oh, that's right. You had said.
Yeah.
But yeah, if that's pretty much everything for the complex, then I think it's time to go back to intermission for a little bit, and then come back for your Poppy Playtime run. All right, we'll be right back.
I was going to do what's called end hops, which basically